I just click play, I click record, and then I just start. I figure that I'm as ready as I will ever be in any given moment. So it's 20 to 1 on a Tuesday morning. I was going to say Monday, but it's not Monday anymore. It's Tuesday. Welcome to the everlasting progress of Fieros' story time. Boop ba doop ba doo. Let's look at the dictionary. There it is. As you can tell by my tone of voice and general demeanour, I'm knackered, I'm burnt out again from YouTube, and I've done it myself. No one's done this to me. No one has forced me into doing this. No one has made me do YouTube videos. There's some good scissors that I could have done with earlier. I was fixing a hole in my jeans where I'd ripped it because I got too fat for them, and I used a piece of sock to cover up some glue that was annoying me, and whatever. And I could have done with some good snippers, but I did not. Okay, so I'm messing about. So I'm going to give you a brief announcement and then crack on with some story time. The announcement is I am coming to a decision. It may not be the most firm of decisions in the world, but it's starting to crystallize. So I've been whining for ages about YouTube. I've been whining that I'm addicted to it. I've been whining that I can't seem to stop, which is the same as addiction, really, isn't it? I whine that no one loves me, basically. No one watches my channels when I want them to. No one watches my video when I want them to. You see? So I get downhearted. I don't really get downhearted anymore. It's just a drain, basically. It's just a fucking drain. It's a waste of my time, and a waste of my energy, and a waste of my brain. It's a brain drain. And in a way, that's part of what it's there for. But I also am to the point now where I don't really need to do this anymore. Like this barely benefits me at all. There was a time period where doing YouTube videos benefited me emotionally because of the venting of it. Like, because I'd start a video and I'd be really angry, and I'd do a video and I'd vent all the anger and say everything that I wanted to say and have fun doing it most of the time. And I get to the end of the video and I'd be like, no, I feel better. Oh, I feel so good. And then I could watch it back as well if ever I am angry again, and watch back those angry videos of me like whacking the camera, which I used to enjoy, which I could probably do that again. That would be fun. But yeah, so I used to get some emotional benefit from it, right? And I'm not really getting any emotional benefit from these anymore because I'm already quite okay in myself. Like I've got to this point where I'm fairly settled in myself. So doing these videos is just it's a waste of my energy now. I feel it's a waste. It's a waste of my energy. Waste. It's a waste of my energy. It would be fine if I was getting something back from it. It would be fine if I was getting paid from it. It'd be fine if I was getting praise and adoration even. Or if my videos were a platform for me to promote other things that I do, like that I was able to sell my artwork and use my videos as a sort of marketing aspect, and to use my videos as a promotional tool for my books. But I don't have an audience, and I'm still not motivated to make an audience, really. I do a little bit of handing out flyers here and there to people I know when I see them, or new people I meet. I give them a little flyer, but it's like, it's nothing concerted, it's nothing organized, it's nothing strategic at all. There's no strategy involved in my channel whatsoever, other than to upload a video. And I've just about started doing tags on every video, but I get so fucking bored of it. I do like 5 or 6 tags and I can't be asked anymore. I just write whatever random shit comes to mind. Sometimes I put tags that are completely irrelevant, like buttocks or Rasputin or whatever. I just put a random word in the tags because I can't be asked to actually think strategically about all the different stupid fucking words that I could put in the tags that will barely make a difference to my videos anyway. I don't have enough of a groundswell. I don't have enough of a bare minimum audience for there to be any sense of growth and growing momentum at this stage. I would need to do some on the ground promotion or some cross promotion of different internet platforms, which I just can't be asked to do, and I've never been asked to do it. I did it right at the beginning with my channel, but I'm a very different person now to when I started my channel. You know, I was young and fresh and free spirited and happy and stuff, and a load of other extra shit has happened since I started the channel to basically fuck my life over again. But this time I'm different, and I don't get so distressed by the life fuckeries anymore. I think I've just my life has been so fucked over so many different times. I just don't care anymore. I just don't care anymore. It doesn't get to me like it used to. But then again, I'm not like fully happy either. Okay, I don't have a relationship, and I don't have a working situation that works for me, and I don't have a living situation that I'm particularly pleased with. But my artwork is going well. My music is going well, actually. Strangely, I wrote a song the other week, and songs seem to start coming naturally quite easily. My book writing is going well still. So those things are all fine. So I've got things that I am working on, although I do feel a bit overwhelmed by some of the things I'm doing from time to time, because I've just given myself a million different projects. And I've also got a load of books that I've decided I'm going to read as well, and I've just overwhelmed myself with the amount of stupid things I'm doing. And I could do with a break. So this leads on to the announcement, which is that I've been doing this for ages. I keep saying this every now and again. I am going to stop these. I am going to stop these, and I'm going to have a fucking break. This is my, it's kind of penciled in, but it feels quite firm as well. My sort of banner goal statement is I'm going to do the Fieros Storytime videos until I get the story authentically to a point where in the story of my life I've told up to the point where I come off antidepressant medications in I think it was December 2013 leading into January of 2014, and that's the cutoff point, is the beginning of January 2014, because that marks the beginning of the new self. Basically, it was a whole new revolution of myself there. So I'm going to leave you on a cliffhanger. Basically, I'm going to get all the way through all the crap, through the mental health system, the depression, the bits and bobs of music and guitar teaching and depression that I went through, and the medication and the meetings with psychiatrists and psychologists and all this crap. I'm going to go through all of that crap, and then when all that stuff comes to a head finally, and I discharge back to the GP, I get my antipsychotic medication weaned down over a period of a few months by the psychiatric consultant doctor that is managing my medication, and so I wean myself off with those with her supervision, and then I wean myself off the antidepressant medication with no medical supervision. I just do it by myself because I can't be fucking asked to deal with a medical profession anymore, because they seem to have some strange feeling that they can control you because they're a professional, and it's, I don't know, the threat of going back to hospital or something if you don't comply with your taking your medications. But whatever, I decided to take my psychology into my own brain, you know, as opposed to taking it into my own hands. Well, I decided to take my own brain into my own hands by stop taking these fucking pills. Okay, so that is the point that I'm going to get the story to authentically. I say authentically because I'm not just going to rush through it, okay? I'm still going to do lots more of these stupid fucking videos. But I'm going to get the story to that point, okay? And then I'm going to have a long, well-deserved break from all of my channels. Now, that's the part that feels slightly flaky. But I really want it to be all of my channels to just stop for a while. I just need this time, I don't even really need it like to do other things or whatever. I'm going to do the other things anyway, but I don't. The reason I need it is because I've said to myself that I want it and I need it for so long, and I've never been able to give that to myself, and it's something I need to give to myself. You know, it's a gift to give myself the rest, to not be thinking about the fact that no one's watching. That bugs the hell out of me. And I still check every day. It's a compulsive habit to check who's watched my videos, how many views have I had on my videos. Some of them do really well randomly, and when I say really well, I mean between like 100 and 600 views, like total. The most views I think I've ever had on any video is like just under 700 views on one video, and it was because it had a clickbait title, which was not even a correct title. It was a misleading title even. So I took that one down eventually because I was like, come on, this is not, it just had no integrity to keep this video up. It was about KFC, and I said that I'd sort of discovered the mystery ingredient of KFC, but I hadn't. I just made a joke video about finding the mystery ingredient. So it was a misleading title. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to do up to the point where I get off the fucking medication in the story of my life. And then, boom, I'm going to take a break from videos. I'm just going to stop. I'm not going to do anything to my channels. I'm just going to leave them as they are. I'm not going to shut them down. Because one thing I try and do occasionally is I shut them down because I think it will stop me, but it never stops me. Because I'll shut a video like channel down, and then I'll go back and I'll be looking at it, or I'll put up another one elsewhere instead. It just doesn't work that way. So it has to be authentic. Basically, it has to feel like I have come to that decision in myself, and it is a disciplined decision, based on the fact that I need to do this for myself, and that I have the power to do this myself. Because, you know, I could say, oh, I'm going to stop, and then I'll just carry on. It can't be like that this time. I don't want it to be like that. I don't want it to just do a fancy end video, like I've done a few different ending videos to my channel, and then 2 minutes later almost I'll just be doing another one. It's like, what's the point of that? It needs to be an authentic end. And it's not going to be an end forever, although it might be an end forever, but it needs to be a sort of crisp end point within the narrative of my channel, of this workaholism. It's a workaholism that I'm doing, basically. This is a workaholic thing. This is a workaholic trait because I am basically trying to get approval and attention and self-worth from this work activity that I'm not getting the self-worth from, I'm not getting the attention from, I'm not getting the recognition from, and I'm not being paid for it either. So this is all self-defeating behaviors right now that I'm doing. This is all, let's put that one up there, it's all self-defeating behaviors. This whole enterprise of the channel has always been a waste of my fucking time. Alright, it's not been a complete and total waste because I have got emotional benefits from it in the past. And you can say I'm kind of getting a little bit of an emotional benefit from it by telling my story, but the emotional benefit is really winding down. And it's just time. It's just time to stop. Not right now, but when I finish that story, that is going to be a marker point to say, let's have a break. Let's have a break. Let's actually, I want to have a break until 2020. Okay. I might even get a normal job. I actually might, though. I really feel like I'm starting to just to even be ready for a normal job, and I kind of crave it. I want to just go somewhere and just look at idiot customers or have colleagues, and to just like go every day for a year. I might even go fucking holiday rep. Be a holiday rep. That'd be wicked. I can have a holiday and drink beer on my days off and be a holiday rep somewhere nice and warm and have a fucking holiday for 3 months. Because I haven't been on holiday properly in a long time. I went to Poland for 6 days, which felt more like a nightmare than a holiday, I have to admit. It was a nightmare adventure that was not a restful, relaxing holiday. Where else have I been? I went to New Milton in wherever that is, down south. Dorset and Devon. I always mix those two up. Dorset, I think it's Dorset. I went to New Milton and stayed there for a week, which my dad paid for me to do that. But again, it was a stressful fucking time, mainly because I didn't have much money to do anything while I was there, so I just had to sit around and be stressed out of the fact that I might not actually be able to eat properly while I was there. So that was a stressful holiday as well. I would love to go on a 3-week, maybe 3 or 4 week, all expenses paid, lounge around, sun, sea, and sailing, messing about in the water type holiday, and just rest and read books and maybe carry on doing my drawings and writing songs and whatever, because I just like to do that. It's quite soothing for me. But mainly to just look at pretty women bouncing around on the beach and maybe have some casual sex while I'm there and drink a load of beer and get really fat, but work off the beer fat by doing like sailing stuff and fucking canoeing and kayaking and jumping on bouncy women, I suppose. Yeah, I just need a break. My fucking life is terrible. And I've not had a break. I've not given myself a break. And I find it really hard to give myself a break as well, because this fucking parent of mine is like this crow. This sounds horrible. This evil crow who is just constantly there going,
and it's like, I feel like if I actually have a day off or few, that I start feeling like I'm doing a bad thing. I'm not allowed to have a holiday because I don't do a normal job, right? Because I don't do work. It's perceived, I think, by a lot of people that I am just having a holiday, that I am just on a permanent holiday. But my life is not a permanent holiday, okay? My life is not a permanent holiday. My life is a permanent sense of poverty. That is not a holiday. Just because you don't work in a normal job does not mean that your life is easy peasy lemon squeezy, fresh and breezy, okay? It is hard to be poor. It is hard to not be in work, and it is hard to try and make something of yourself without fitting into the normal fucking grind of the daily world, and to try and make something creative out of myself. Yeah, and so I've got this crow who's like always there. So if I take any time off, even if I wanted to have a week where I just sit at home by myself and I don't go out and do any drawing or painting or writing or making videos or anything like that, and if I just don't do anything for a week and I just have an at-home holiday, as some people do, right, and just doss around, sitting watching TV, watching films, whatever, I will just have her like saying, where are you going today then? What are you going to do today then? What are you doing today then? Are you lying around a lot? Aren't you lying around a lot? You're not doing much. You're lurking. Are you just resting? Are you just... Shut the fuck up! So yeah, I can't have a holiday. Okay, but I will. Sorry if that was a bit much. I just didn't realise how much she still gets to me. She still does get to me. She gets me a lot less than she used to be fair. A lot less than she used to. But that's just because I've screened her out and I just don't care anymore. I just like, fucking whatever. Whatever.
It's not a positive state of affairs, but it's not a negative state of affairs. It's more neutral now, whereas it used to be negative. It's not positive, it's just neutral now. Even though I was just angry there for a moment. Oh, you should have seen how angry I was like 3 years ago about her. This is way better. One whack of the table, that's nothing. I was whacking the camera for like half an hour back in those days. You know, one whack of the table is good. That's good. That's less. That's much less anger. You know. So yeah, I need a break. I'm going to tell the story, and then I'm going to get to the end of the story, which is the beginning of 2014, and then we will have a break until 2020 of videos. And I'll just promote them instead of doing them. Alright? Because I've said this before in other videos, it can't just go on indefinitely like this. It's like there needs to be a point of stop. There needs to be a point where you can look and say, there, that was what I did it. That's the fucking project. Because the problem with these videos being continuous is there's no sense of end point. You know, when you're doing artwork, you're making a piece of art, or you're writing a book, it has an end point. You know, it will be finished at some point, right? You write a book, or even a series of books, but there is a beginning, a middle, and an end. And there may be 1, 2, 3, 4. It might be a trilogy or a double trilogy or a set of 9 books, whatever, however many books there are. But there is an end to the story. They do not go on continuously. And if they do, then someone else carries on afterwards and carries on the stories. But I cannot do this indefinitely because it doesn't do anything for me. And I almost don't want it to do anything for me anymore. I've had enough. Okay, and there's another aspect as well. So, like during a piece of work, a painting, you will know when it's finished, and you will have that piece of work, and you've spent that amount of time on it, and it is finished. And it's different from videos because videos, there's a sense of like this continuity of videos. So videos have to keep coming out. You have to keep kind of making a new thing because people are in this culture of YouTube. We're always looking for the new thing, right? Now, my videos, I believe, because they're big and fat and long and slow and boring, have got a lot of material in them, so that you should be able to go back and watch some of my earlier videos, and they should have some rewatchability value. They should feel slightly fresh because of the way I do them, because they're all spontaneously channeled, because they're all spontaneous events. I'm not planning anything. This is just me chatting shit right here. You should be able to get some value from what I have done on a repeat viewing. So I want my videos to be more like chunks, products, products. So you look back at them and you watch it not like a movie, but maybe like a soap opera or something, like it has a sort of trash value. Yet you want to watch it for the entertainment, and you want to remember what happened, and you want to just go through it, that kind of thing. I want it to be like that, and there has to be an end point. There has to be a finished point where the product has been made, and you say, there it is. Rest and consolidate for other projects, Right. Okay, so I mean, I feel like I'm just justifying this to myself, but I feel I need to justify this to myself to just say, I need a break, I need a break, I need a break. I will give myself a break. So, with that being said, let's go back to the story, do a little bit more in America and see what comes out, and just have the fact that when we get to the end of the story, that's it. Having a break until 2020. 2020, bastards. That's a year. It'll probably be about a year because I'll probably end up taking it until Christmas, I imagine, to finish the story. All right. Good. America. I don't know if there's that much left to tell about me being in America. I have this image of me going to this place with rocks. And the squirrels. I told you about the squirrels. The squirrels were all black. And I made some racist jokes about the squirrels being all black.
Ta-da! What else can I say about America? Great sandwiches in the delis. Um, in the like corner shop, basically, you have a little deli counter, and they'll make you these amazing sandwiches with like pastrami and beef and all kinds of stuff. Really great thick sandwiches with nice bread and good quality stuff on the inside. Where it's probably not good quality, but it tastes good anyway. So yeah, that was good. I told you about the dress. I bought a big yellow golden dress. Walked around looking like a hippie. I got into hair for free, I think. Pretty much. I spoke to a raccoon for a while. Amazingly intelligent looking creatures, those raccoons. Yes, I did just adjust my penis. What are you going to do? Amazingly intelligent creatures, raccoons. I just looked at it and I thought, I know that I'm definitely communicating with this raccoon because look at its eyes. I don't know if you've ever seen a raccoon, but they look very, very intelligent. They're like, I don't know, you see it to be sort of human in a way. Obviously they're not exactly the same as humans, but I felt it to be like it knows things. It knows what I was thinking. I thought it knows, but it didn't know. It didn't. It didn't respond to me saying, "Come on, you little bastard." I was going, "Come on, come on," and I was willing it to come down and chat with me, but it wouldn't. It's just sat in a tree. It wasn't actually sat in a tree. It stood in a tree like this, and it just looked at me like this for ages. It was just stood in a tree on its four legs. This raccoon, black and white stripy raccoon bastard. And it was just like this. But it was just like that for ages, just looking at me like. I was like, that's amazing. And I was like, come on, come down, come down. And come on. What noise does a raccoon will make a raccoon come here? Come on, what noises can I make to get a raccoon to come over? I probably would have got rabies, to be fair, if it came over, because they've got dodgy shit in them, haven't they? Or AIDS. I don't know. Gonorrhea. Catch gonorrhea from a rabid AIDS-ridden raccoon. No. So there's the raccoon. He didn't come down. And then I went in to see Hair. This was all in Central Park, by the way. Hair is a musical, by the way, not just a piece of hair lying around. Okay. Joey was the actor guy. I went to a random acting thing with him. I think it was with him. I'm not sure. And I sort of was talking to one of the teachers at this acting course open day event thing. Like sort of as though I might join the course, and then I may have committed myself to going to something, and then I just didn't go. Didn't show up. I think I wrote my name down on something saying I was going to show up to something, and then I didn't go. Eventually, I just went. I felt I was coerced into it, man. Yeah. What else? Well, you had the Robert guy who was the Hare Krishna with the glasses. Lived on the roof. Told me about vegetarianism, and I'd already been a vegetarian by that point. I'd already been a vegan, but I then lapsed, and I just didn't care anymore. Which I think is healthy, actually. I think it's healthy to not be too precious about your diet. If you're too precious about your diet, then you start making other people's lives a misery as well as your own, because you're too precious about your diet. So wherever you go, you have to be precious about your diet, which means you become ridiculously obnoxious about your diet to other people. And it causes a problem with other people, because other people tend to not be so precious about their diet. And when you're precious about your diet, you cause a fuss wherever you go, because you go, do you have my special dietary needs? Yeah. So I think it's healthy to go in and out of being precious with your diet, to go, look, I don't care what I eat, actually, it's fine. I'm going to be fine whatever I eat. If I die, I die. If I have gastroenteritis, then I have gastroenteritis. I'm not even sure if I'm saying that correctly, but yeah. So he was telling me, this Robert guy, he was telling me about vegetarianism, and he was telling me about how, yeah, man, how can you have all that like rotting flesh inside your bowel system, man? You know, it's all like decomposing in there. It's like rotting meat, it's rotting flesh, man. Those are like dead animals all decomposing. It's like putrefaction inside your digestive system, man. You can't have that shit in there. It's disgusting. Don't you just think about that? Those like rotting pieces of meat digesting and like and putrefying down inside your digestive tract. Don't you think? Don't you feel that's disgusting, man? I was like, eh. I did think about it a little bit, but I think it was a bit propagandary. I mean, what about the vegetables that are doing the same thing? They're all putrefying down, man. Your digestive system, all those vegetables, you know, it's just rotten vegetables. So, whatever. Yeah, so that wasn't persuasive. He told me about the thing about how we tend to numb out to ourselves by using things like TV and radio, and how the radio in the workplace can be used as a way to just tune us out of our shallow, meaningless lives. He also said that it was more of a control strategy that was imposed upon us to keep us in order, using the radio and the TV to keep us in order, which may well be part of it, but I don't care if it is or not. I don't care. I don't subscribe to mainstream media anymore anyway, because I never really watch TV. I watch a Friends episode every now and again on TV, and that's about it. Not just one episode, whatever one happens to be on. Just the one same episode over and over and over again. No. Okay, so what else? I'm just doing a summary of America. Okay, so I was going to go to Seattle, but I didn't end up going to Seattle because I thought I'd probably end up getting raped. I got kicked out of my hostel. Was on the street for a bit, pushing a trolley with my bits and bobs in. Gave my mum and dad a call. Went, well, I'm homeless. Can you help? And they sent me some. They didn't send me some money. They bought me a ticket, and then I had to go and pick up the ticket from the desk. The ticket was to go and see Mrs. D in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, on the Greyhound bus, and I did that. But before all that happened, I spent some time living genuinely homelessly. Genuinely homelessly. Oh yeah, and I skipped my flight home, which was pre-arranged because I'd ordered a what do you call it? Return flight. So that was already booked when I went over there to go home. As in, I booked a return flight from England before I left. Okay, that makes sense. And when I was in America, I decided not to go on the return flight. I decided to fuck the return flight off and just follow my intuition and this little voice in my head that kept saying, stay here, stay here, stay here. And I had a real tough time with that little voice for a while because I was like, no, man, this is really bad. If I stay here, then I will be missing my flight, and it's going to be a very tricky situation that I'll put myself in. And I really had a deep, conflicted discussion with myself about that move to not take the flight home, and it wasn't an easy decision, and arguably it was a stupid decision, but ultimately it did lead me to what my purpose was. I wanted to be homeless. I wanted to experience this sense of destitution. I wanted to experience this sense of no one helping me, and not having anything silver spooned to me, if you like, which had been a goal for a number of years since I started going to university and talking to homeless people. I wanted to experience the life of a homeless person, I suppose, so that I could contrast my privileged upbringing with something else, so that I could appreciate what it is that I have, and also to appreciate the situation that other people are in, so that I could appreciate the suffering that people, like homeless people, go through. Because I think that probably homeless people were really the only people who were in a form of distress or suffering that I had access to. Obviously, people who are like in hospital, or who are in hospices, or who are in care homes, or in mental health establishments, or in prisons. These are all people who are going through some kind of suffering situation, yeah? But most of those are not accessible to me as a Joe Schmo. However, homeless people lying around, literally lying around on the floor, yeah, were one of the first types of people, or category of people, if you like, who were in a genuine suffering situation that I had access to. So I remember, for example, when I went to London, I used to go to London, to go to South Bank and just to be in London. And with my boyfriend at the time, I would go to London occasionally. We'd just go to art things or do stuff in London, London sightseeing, whatever. There would be homeless people there, lots of homeless people, and I would tend to sit down and speak with each homeless person. Much to the annoyance of Mr. B, my boyfriend at the time, because he was like, "Oh God, I just wanted to do what I had planned to do, and why do you have to keep sitting with all these homeless people all the fucking time?" Which is fair enough. Which is why we weren't compatible, because he was an arrogant motherfucker who didn't care about anyone, and I was an arrogant motherfucker who pretended to care about everyone. But I actually genuinely did have interest in hearing about people in a homeless situation. So I would sit and talk to homeless people and listen to what they're saying, and eventually found out that a lot of what homeless people say is bull, is total bull. But a lot of it is true as well. So it's a kind of thing you have to sift through. It's interesting. A lot of this story revolves around homelessness. Like, it began with talking with homeless people. I had the urge to become homeless. I was not allowed to become homeless by like various people, my boyfriend at that time included. And then I developed this urge. I think I've already said that. I developed the urge even more again later to become homeless. This time I wanted to become homeless in America, which was also spurred on by reading the Eckhart Tolle book, The Power of Now and A New Earth, those two different books. Where he speaks in those books, specifically in The Power of Now, for sure he says it in there, but he speaks in those books about being living on a bench basically for like 2 years, where he basically just went and sat on benches all the time, and he didn't have a stable housing situation, so it'd be like living with friends or occasionally having a permanent housing situation and then it not being there all the time. I don't know exactly what the truth of like how his arrangements were with his housing during that time, but he has said in various talks that he's given that he didn't have a stable housing situation at the time, and that he spent a lot of time just sitting on benches. And I had that as a kind of like idealized vision of, I can be like him, or I am like him anyway, so I'm gonna, if I go and do this and sit on benches all the time, then I will be like him, which is to say I'll be enlightened and I'll be in a state of peace and joy and bliss that he speaks about in his books. Right, so I had that as a kind of idealized vision of what it means to be enlightened, is to go and sit on benches and to live that way. Or that if I was to do that, then it would help me to access this wisdom or knowledge or sense of peace that he was speaking about, which doesn't make any sense at all, really, unless you're doing some kind of meditation on the bench, I suppose. But to me, sitting on a bench all the fucking time would just be bloody boring after a while. I mean, how long can you do that for? I can do it for probably a few hours max, but my butt gets sore. I can't be bothered with it. I mean, what? There's only so much bench sitting you can do, and I found that out when I lived in Reading. I tried sitting on the whole bench thing, lying on the bench, sitting on the bench. It gets boring after a while. I mean, if you're not already in a state of transcendental enlightenment, whatever, then you do get bored. It's not all that great to just sit on a bench and watch the world go by. After a while, it's annoying and uncomfortable, and why bother? And like, I want to go home. I'm cold, And nothing's happening. I'm not doing anything productive by this. Anyway, yeah. So I used to, when I was in London, I used to talk to homeless people and sit down with them. And there's this one particular guy. I don't think I mentioned this in the story, although I might have done. One particular guy who was like under the bridge not the bridge that I stayed in, under a bridge in London, right? Not a bridge actually. It was more like one of those underpass, long tunnel things that you get in London to get from one bit to another. It is a bridge technically because there's a road over the top, but it doesn't really feel like a bridge. It's one of those tunnels. So I was in this tunnel, and there was a homeless dude sat on the floor with his dog and a book. I think maybe the Bible. Can't really remember, but he had these eyes that looked so completely pure and happy, and he said that he was just really grateful for everything the Lord had given him, and I genuinely believed him. He may well have just been high on heroin. I don't know, but he didn't seem it. It seemed like for coming from a genuine place of gratitude, and something about that homeless guy really stuck with me because I felt like this guy has nothing. Basically, he gets money from passers-by, and he sleeps in a car park at night with his sleeping bag and his dog and a few of the homeless mateys that he's got from around here. But he seems genuinely happy. He is actually happy. He is the least miserable homeless person I have ever seen, and he is actually probably the happiest person I had ever seen at that point in time anyway. And he was just genuinely grateful and genuinely appreciative of life. And I thought, how can someone be in such a shitty situation comparative to what I would call a non-shitty situation, which would have been my situation at the time, which would have been like having a house, having a car, having money, having a boyfriend, doing things with my life in the sort of world, socializing, all this stuff in the normal way, right? So I had all this thing and had come from that background, and then there's this guy sat there on the floor with a dog, with his little Bible and his little hat with some change in it, and he looks genuinely happy, and he's speaking words of being genuinely appreciative of his situation. I thought, how can it be that this person has absolutely nothing comparative to me, and yet he is stonkingly happy, like way happier than I feel. And I was just like, how can it be? How can this be the case that this person has such bright, bright, happy, pure looking eyes and this genuine smile in him and just this kind of radiant aura about him? And he's sat on the floor with his dog and a book and some change in a hat and a sleeping bag. And I just couldn't understand, really. But it meant something to me because I thought, well, if it's possible then to be happy when you're homeless, then it means that your situation realistically is not determinant of your happiness. Whoa, these are big words. That it doesn't matter what your situation is. So you need to kind of break the link between making your situation in life, your status, your money, your possessions, your relationship, your housing situation, all these things that we think are necessary for our happiness, that we need them to be there, that they're requirements, like minimum requirements for our happiness, that we think that those are what those minimum requirements are, right? We have these requirements for our happiness, and then there's this guy whose requirement for his happiness is sitting on the floor with his dog, and that's enough for him to be like blissfully happy by the look of it. And it didn't look like he was on drugs. He genuinely just had this really positive vibration, I suppose you could call it, positive aura coming from him. It was unlike any of the other homeless people I've met. Okay, I know what a junkie looks like. I know what an addict looks like because their eyes are like their soul has been sucked out of them by the drug, and their features are like haggard and they're jittery and they're cold and they don't look happy ever, and they're miserable, and they're like, even if they're like able to have a laugh, they still look anxious and concerned, and they can be irritable, and and some of the people who are addicted to heroin, who I've met in the past, they are very, very purposeful about finding the next hit. They need to find enough money, and they will speak to every fucking person on the street if they have to get the money to get the next hit. And they've got that militant purposefulness about them, like, and they will ask anyone and everyone, and they'll be as manipulative as they need to be, and they'll be as whiny as they need to be, and they will hit, like, target every person, and they'll go into shops, and they'll talk to people in the shops, and they'll go onto the trains, and they'll talk to people in the trains, and they'll go into car parks, and they'll talk to people in parks, and they'll be relentlessly militant because they need that fucking money, and they need that fucking hit. But this person, it's not like that at all. This person seemed like a genuinely happy person, with just these brilliant, sparkling blue eyes, and I couldn't understand how it could be that way. And I suppose that was where, realistically, my desire to be homeless probably generated from seeing that guy, because I figured that, okay, so this guy can be happy homeless. Well, maybe one of the reasons why I feel unhappy is because I have far too high expectations for my life. I have far too high standards for my life, so that one of the reasons why I'm unhappy in my life is because I feel I'm not meeting these standards that I have. And this guy does not have those same high expectations for his life, and he is totally happy. So maybe part of the desire was for me to feel like I just wanted to escape all these pressures and demands and standards for my life, and to go back to a sense of basics, where if I can be happy with nothing, then I can be happy with everything, if that makes sense. So I think that's where that came from. And I would also talk to other homeless people. Other stories that I can say about homeless people, there was one guy who, when I met him, he had, this was a horrible one. Horrible story, I mean. So he was, what was he? He was in a sleeping bag, on the street when I met him and spoke to him, and his sleeping bag was all not in a good way, and he had burns on his face and arms and neck and stuff, and he did not look in a good way, and he told me that the reason of that was because some drunken guys, I think, had set fire to his sleeping bag while he was asleep in it at night. And that's why he was burned, and they kicked him in his bag and set fire to his sleeping bag while he was asleep. Which is just a horrible story. Yeah. Then there's the other guy. Well, this is when I was in Reading at university. I don't know if I spoke about this when I was talking about Reading, but his name was Robin. Why not? Just say it. His name was Robin, and I ended up giving him 90 quid over a period of time, each, in response to some new concocted story about why he needed the money. First it was for a hostel, then it was for some Pokemon cards that he found to earn money for a hostel, and then it was for food, and then it was for a tea or whatever. And I just found out later from another homeless bloke that he was just buying heroin with it, the money. So I felt proper jaded about giving to homeless people, based on that interaction. And that was the point where I realised that giving to homeless people directly is basically fueling their drug habit or their alcoholism. But then later on, I've come to a conclusion where, well, from their perspective, it's still great when someone gives them money, and they're gonna get their hit. So it's like, well, do you fuel their habit? They're gonna get it anyway. They're not gonna stop taking the drugs just because they don't get enough money on any given day. They will get that money. So you may as well, like, be there, be an honest, decent, positive human being to interact with, whether or not you give them money. Does that make sense? So, I mean, I don't actually have a policy anymore about whether I give or not. I used to have a policy of like always giving to homeless people, and then I had a policy of, okay, don't give them money, buy them a drink or some food, instead. So I went with that for ages. Then I just like had a policy of, right, that's it, I'm never giving anything ever to homeless people because I've been stung too many times, and I honestly don't know what the right course of action is. And then I gave up on that policy as well, and I'm like, well, maybe I should be more generous and not just give when I feel like it. So now it's mainly a no, because mainly I'm stingy for my own money, and I'm going through a period where I'm like, no, I need to protect my own needs. My own needs I've left neglected for a long period of time, so I'm more protective over my own financial needs, because I don't have that much money. Probably some of these homeless people are earning more money than I am per week. They're just spending it all on drugs and alcohol, which is not far off what I do, apart from I don't spend on drugs. But I do spend a bit on alcohol. What am I saying? This is ridiculous. Okay, so right, those are some stories of homelessness. So yeah, okay, fine. I also got mugged in Reading. I don't know if I told you about that, but it doesn't seem particularly relevant to the America story, which is what I was trying to tell. So back to America. So I became homeless because I ran out of money from my hostel, and I'd skipped my flight home, right, after having that discussion with myself about whether or not I should stay. My internal, like, intuition voice, one of my policies, if you like, on how to guide my life at the time, was to listen to this intuitive voice in my head, the still small voice within. Unfortunately, all the still small voice within kept saying was, stay here, stay here, stay here. So I followed it, which meant skipping my flight, which I did. And that meant that my situation became increasingly more difficult because I now had nowhere to stay. I did not have any money. I did not have anyone else who I could stay with until the Mrs. D thing came along. But before that happened, again, the timeline is still a bit fuzzy, but I ended up staying with that guy who turned out basically he wanted me as a kind of free hooker by the sounds of it. He wanted me as a kind of playboy for the night, which I didn't realise, being naive. I didn't realise those were the terms and conditions, and that's why it was happening. I just was grateful to be having somewhere to stay. He was grateful to be having a nice young. He probably presumed I was gay. I wouldn't have said I was gay or straight at that time. I wouldn't have said I was bisexual. I was just this fluid kind of sexual being, opportunistic sexual being. When people wanted something, I went, okay, fine, but not always. I didn't want to have anything sexual with this bloke at all. I was just pleased to be staying with him. I suppose that I could sense that there was a sexual undertone to his invitation, but I was too desperate for somewhere to stay, because otherwise I would have been in this cold outdoor scenario. Yeah. And I think it's because this must have been the second night, because the first night I tried to stay in the Port Authority bus terminal and they wouldn't let me, because
you're not supposed to do that. You can't be homeless. You can't stay overnight in there. And then the security guard lady took me, she directed me to this homeless center thing where I think they kind of took some details from me, um, and then I was just in this hall with these benches where you could go and get food, and they were eating peas, and I think I ate some food there, but I didn't feel like I fitted in there really, and I was a bit afraid to stay there. And I ended up going outside and like had a random interaction with another guy who was out there, and I just got this really negative vibe. This is outside a homeless shelter, basically. I just got this really negative vibe from this other guy who was staying there. Like he was, I don't know, like similar to the guy who sexually assaulted me later, but it just felt really creepy. But the way that this guy was talking to me, um, and I just did not feel comfortable. So I was like, okay, I don't want to stay here. I can't stay here because this guy's staying here, and I don't feel comfortable here at all. I don't feel like I fit in. I don't know what the hell. This is the wrong place for me. I'm getting out of here because it just felt dangerous. The whole place felt dangerous, you know. Um, so I got out of there. Yeah, I didn't stay in a bed or anything. Um, yeah, so I don't know what I did the next day. I remember that I got some sleep, brief bits of sleep in a bush at one point, and I tried to sleep in these. It was on a building site thing, and there were like, I think they were like sewage pipes, these giant um, concrete pipe things that were in chunks. I don't know if you've ever seen them. They start off as like these sort of cylindrical chunks, like big long chunks, but and then they fit them together once they're in the hole. They sort of slot them all together and they make a giant long pipe. But so I tried to sleep in a pipe for a bit, but that didn't work because I just didn't feel safe in one of those pipes. I slept in a bush. Oh, I still haven't told the full story of Al. God damn it. Why haven't I told that story? Oh, now I'm near the end of the thing and I'm knackered. Al. So I did couch surfing and I stayed with Al. And he did the trumpet playing. And I had this dream while I was there, which is a significant dream actually. Significant to the point where it made me want to have that dream again. The dream was where I was kind of underwater in the dream, and I was like swimming to the surface and like scrabbling to the surface in the dream. And then I got to the surface in the dream, and then I simultaneously woke up in real life, right? And it was like as I pierced through the surface of the water in the dream and took my breath like that, I also woke up in real life and my eyes were like wide open. But I'd also gone to this extra. It's like I'd gone to this extra layer of reality when I was waking up. It was like I'd woken up even further than normal. So, you know, when they speak about in spiritual traditions about waking up to your spiritual dimension, I felt like as I came through that dream, so the water was like a struggle and I was like trying to get out of it, and then I came up into the open and took this breath, but it was like this such a it was like I tasted infinity in just a split second. I woke up to my infinite nature very briefly, but it felt so powerful. Um, and I knew that when I was waking up from that dream, I woke up into the real world, and then I also woke up very briefly to an extra level of reality that was like to eternity. I woke up to eternity. I breathed into my eternal self somehow, or I touched the nature of infinity with that thing. I was like, oh my god, and it was absolutely incredible. It only lasted a split second, but it was like that.
I knew in that second that that is what I'm seeking to wake up to in life. That is what the end point is, to wake up to this higher transcendental reality where it's like I could describe it as waking up to your true self so powerfully and so deeply that it's like, oh, it was just exhilarating, and it was like breathing a whole new breath, breathing a whole new level of truth into your system somehow. And it's hard to describe just how much information was contained within that like instant of waking up. So it was as though I suddenly woke up to the nature of eternity, or suddenly woke up to the eternity of the universe. I suddenly woke up to this, my true real self, as being um like made of the same fabric as the universe somehow, or just made of eternity. I woke up to what I really am, which was more. I feel it like a spark of light or something, like this sort of infinite spark of light. And I woke up to that, and I was like, oh my god, that's what I am. And it was like as I came up through that water in the dream, I woke up into the real world, and uh, and it was either before or after I woke up to the real world. I feel like I woke up into the real world, and then I woke up an extra layer, which is hard to describe. But I woke up to this exhilarating extra layer of being awake, um, and it was incredible, to the point where for like the rest of that holiday and for some time afterwards, holiday wasn't really a holiday, maybe it was a holiday, for the rest of that time in America and for a good deal of time afterwards, I wished and hoped that every night that I would have that dream again, and I never got it back. um, I'm starting to have an experience of it a little bit coming into my real life now, though. Lately I'm starting to remember that sensation. It's it's like, I don't know. Maybe it's like the light at the end of that tunnel that they speak about when you go through a near-death experience. It feels like that same point of light, expanding into eternity. In an instant, you have the instantaneousness of eternity. So, and there you are, and it's like, for the instant that I was awake in that reality, it was though I was awake for the whole of the universe's time period, and then I snapped back into the normal waking state. So I sort of went to my deepest truth of self, and I woke up to that, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And it was as though I'd always been there, and that was my true place, and that was the true place to wake up to. And then I'm just gonna pick my nose a little bit, and then I kind of came back to the normal waking state, and I couldn't sustain it. I couldn't live in that higher level reality for very long. It must have probably been about 10 seconds, really, or less, of like linear time. But when I was there, it felt as though it had the nature of eternity to it. So it was 10 seconds in this time frame, but from that perspective, or from that feeling, it was like eternity. Yeah. I don't mean that in a cliche way. I meant it felt like the whole of eternity was condensed into that single point. It felt like I woke up to this point of light, or this point of experience, and that's what I really was. And it's like the whole of life, the whole of the universe, just suddenly I woke up to that. I've had an experience similar to that, actually, out in the garden when it was really dark, and I had my eyes closed and I was doing a meditation. And I got close to that experience of feeling like I was waking up to that sensation of being that light. And it freaked me out. It felt too ungrounding to do it. So, because I felt like I was going to die in the garden. In the dream one, I didn't feel like I was going to die. I felt like it was really desirable to get to that point. But in the garden, I felt like I was. It's so intense an experience. It's like suddenly you have this rush of light, and I was becoming this light. And I had it once in my bed as well, where I got so deep into myself, into the body, that I felt like my body was just turning into light. And I thought, oh my god, I could actually be dying. Like this, this might be what happens when you die, is that you get the sensation of your body turning into light, and then you die. And I was like, I'm not ready to die, man. I'm not dying here. You know, I'm not. I'm 32. I'm not dying right now. So I pulled myself out of it. I was like, no, 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 because I was just drifting off, and I felt my whole body turning into light, and I was like, no, I'm not dying now. This is a death experience. I'm not doing it. Um, but maybe I will try and get my way into that. Because maybe it's not a death experience. Maybe it's just a really intense feeling experience that could. It feels like it could be really pleasurable if you can sustain it without dying. Okay, so that was a good point there to tell the story of that dream. Waking up to that feeling like I was a spark of light that contained the whole of the universe in it at once, and I was like a massive rush. Whoa, God, there I am. That's what I really am. That's the place to wake up to. Okay, so America, we're still going through America. I'm just trying to clear up bits and bobs that I remember from there, because it's kind of hard to navigate what happens after America, because I was in what people would call deep psychosis at that time afterwards, or very shortly afterwards. And I guess, my perceptions of things were not always correct during that time. More on that later. But there was an element to it that was very, very mystical and very, very thrilling and very, very interesting and very, very exciting and magical. So I lived in this kind of vibrating sense of presence all the time, where my thoughts felt like they were manifesting constantly in the world, and my sense of awareness was constantly manifesting in the world. But this is something that other people around me could not understand at all and could not relate to, and I couldn't communicate to them what I was going through so that they could understand it, and they couldn't listen to me long enough. They were very intolerant to what I was saying. So the communication just was a complete meltdown clash between me and anyone else, really. Yeah, so I was going through a mystical experience from my perspective, and from other people's perspective, I was nuts and insane and out of touch with reality. But for me, I was more deeply in touch with the reality than everyone else. Which I still feel that was the case. I think the feeling of it is a more deeply in touch reality. The way that I was expressing it probably wasn't, but it's just because I couldn't express it in a way that other people could understand. Anyway, I'll leave that for another video. I still feel like there's more to say about the America trip, even though I've done the bulk of it. We'll keep going through it until we get to the end of it in an authentic way, and I can say, yes, that's definitely done, and then we can move on. And there might be kind of a period where I go between the being in America and then being at home, and sort of transition it that way, and move it forward chunk by chunk, because it does get kind of blurry after I get back from America, even more blurry than it was in America with regard to timeline and stuff. For example, I went to live in Stansted Airport for a couple of days, which was after I moved into this place for 2 weeks, which was after, I don't know what happened before then, like what led to that situation occurring. Yeah, so it's a bit tricky to piece things together there. Like, I don't know how long, for example, I don't know how long I was at home when I got back from America before I then moved into this other place for 2 weeks. Then I went to Stansted, and I got picked up by the police from Stansted, and got back on the train with my mum,
and then gave her the runaround on the train because I felt like she was trying to control me and I didn't want to be controlled. So I went walking up and down the carriages until she would stop following me. If she would have just trusted that I was going to go home with her and not been so like trying to keep me there, then I wouldn't have gone walking off. The only reason I went walking off is because just to bring this controlling tendency out of her and to realize that she was being controlling. Anyway, oh god. And then I lived in London. So I lived in London on the streets for a while. But when did I live in London on the streets? Was that before I went to Stansted, I feel? It's hard to know. Was I living in? I think I lived in the streets of London for a bit, and then I went back home. I can't remember. We'll have to do that in more detail at another time when I've got more energy to do it. So we'll go back to America and listen to more of that story. I probably want to tell a bit more of the story of Al, maybe even a bit more of the story of Mrs. D, when on the next video, but I can't say for sure because it just tends to happen as it happens. Thanks for watching. When we get to the end of this period of story, when it gets to the 2014 point, I'm going for a break until 2020.